Hello, hello. Welcome to Newbies to Movies. I'm Tyler.
And I'm Justin.
This is a podcast where we like to talk about new movies that we haven't watched, with this week's theme being Pixar. And we brought on this week a Pixar expert in herself, a two-time guest already, but third time the charm, Madison. Welcome back.
Hello.
Welcome back to the podcast. She's like the third wheel behind this podcast, doing stuff behind the scenes, creating all the graphics that you see on Instagram and all that. And last time we thanked her, but we'd like to thank you again for it, for all the help that you do with us and all the setup and stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I would like to start this podcast off with stuff that we've watched this week, either with this theme or something away from this theme. So Justin, if you want to go first.
I haven't been watching much else besides the Pixar movies this week. Talked about last week how I got started with Euphoria. That's been going good. I need to get to finishing Daredevil Born Again. It's getting pretty live right now. I have a feeling if it follows what the comics are based on for this comic book run, I think it's going to get really interesting here these last 2 episodes. But yeah, trying to finish that up.
Awesome. Yeah. What about you, Madison?
I've just been watching a lot of Pixar movies. I watched Toy Story 2, Incredibles, Soul, Coco, Elio, Luca, just a bunch of Pixar movies.
A lot of the newer ones, it seems like, that you were focusing on.
Yeah. And not this week, but I saw Hoppers last month.
Okay. Yeah, this week I've been on I would say a Pixar grind of sorts. I watched a lot of old ones. I watched like Toy Story 3, Toy Story 2, Toy Story. I don't know why I said them in the opposite direction, but I saw those ones. I saw Finding Nemo. I saw A Bug's Life, just because I wanted to rewatch them. But yeah, I watched 2 new ones that I hadn't seen before on top of the 2 new ones this week, being Hoppers and Turning Red. I really enjoyed both of them. I like Turning Red a bit better personally. I thought the story was a little bit more original for me. I thought Hoppers was funny at parts, but with like all the hype around it, people saying, "Oh, dude, this is also meant for adults." It wasn't that funny to me compared to a lot of other Pixar films. I don't know. For me, it kind of missed on that hype for it, I guess. I was looking forward to like the meme of the lizard going, lizard, lizard, lizard. And it wasn't until like the end of the movie. So I was really hoping that was like just throughout the film, because I think that's so funny. Just the lizard thing. Turning Red, I actually really like though, like the Asian culture piece of it all, and then the red panda. Actually, like thought right away, I was like, I'm gonna probably hate this film, but I actually really liked it. Awesome. So yeah, this week's theme is Pixar, one of the biggest animation studios, is now owned by Disney, but first started off as its own company, and then being, as Madison told me right before this, being bought by Steve Jobs in 1986. And then from there, we kind of became an animation studio, created some movies like Toy Story first, and then started collabing during Toy Story 2 with Disney, and then Disney straight up bought it out in 2006. And since then, it's been doing like 2 movies a year, it seems like, since then, and is now up to 30 films just within like the Toy Story or the Pixar like family itself. So yeah, what do you guys think of Pixar as your first like thought?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we were just lucky enough to be born at the right time to, grow up with these movies. I don't know about you guys. Mine growing up was always Toy Story. Had a Buzz Lightyear themed room, all the toys. Also, Monsters, Inc. was a huge one as well. Just being able to grow up with them, I think they mean so much to me as such an iconic part of my childhood. And watching these back definitely makes me feel very nostalgic about it all.
What about you, Madison?
I enjoy Pixar movies a lot. They're ones that I constantly have on and watch all the time. Like Justin said, like we grew up with them, so it's kind of just like a part of us and a part of our childhood and like what we know. But I just like the stories, and there's always like new stories to be told, and I really like that about them.
Yeah, I agree with both parts, where I really enjoy Pixar films probably more than any other animation studio. For one, I think the animation of itself is really well done, where like some other studios just don't look as good as Pixar movies. You see the images from Toy Story 1 compared to like Toy Story 4, and you're just like, wow, this is like insane, the difference of like how defined characters are. So I think Pixar is really known for really good animation, but then also like crucial themes in the movie that try to teach kids more than just some animation studios just try to give you like slop of a plot and just have a fun time and like nothing to pull out of it. I think Pixar is really good at like putting themes within each of their movies to pull out from it. But I think when we're going to do a rankings of the top 20 Pixar movies at the end, and I think a lot of like our personal bias towards some of these like movies that we watch as kids more so than others is definitely going to come out when it comes to the top 10, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But this week we did Soul and Coco, two newer Pixar movies, I would say. I hadn't seen either of them, and I really wanted to check them out. But first, we're going to start with Soul. So, Justin, if you want to get started.
Yeah, I was really excited to get Tyler to watch this one. I think this one is definitely one of Pixar's deeper movies. Definitely connects a lot more with adults, I think, than most Pixar movies would. But with the plot, I gave it a 9. Kind of the plot and the script, I gave it a 9. Soul follows Joe Gardner. He's a middle school band teacher, and his dream has always been playing jazz professionally. And, right after he finally gets his major gig, he passes away. He falls into a hole and dies, and his soul gets separated from his body, ending up in the great before is what they call it. And he mentors the 22nd soul ever to try to get her to find her spark. And while also trying to get back to his own life, he's kind of using her to try to get back there. Overall, with this plot, this script, I think it was really well done, really interesting outlook on, life and kind of how that's told. But what do you guys think about it?
Yeah, for me, I really enjoyed the story as well. It's interesting that you say it's really deep, where I felt like the deep part of the film was mainly just the last 20 minutes. I feel like before that, it was a very just like any other children's animated movie, to where you could kind of see something, because at the end of the day, it's about souls, right? It's like, yeah, you could kind of draw like the deepness kind of from that, but the last 20 minutes definitely wrapped it all up, and it's probably the best pick, what Pixar's really good at was the last 20 minutes of this film.
For me, this movie, the script or the plot, I think it does hit a little bit different than other Pixar movies, just because I think the meaning behind it and where his story goes, it's more about, I feel like, passion and purpose rather than just passion, because he's realizing life isn't necessarily just about your passions, it's also about your purpose. And we see that throughout the movie, and him working with 22 and him discovering life is just, you don't necessarily have to have a spark. It's more so your willingness and to live and things like that. I feel like more of we see his perspective changing.
Don't mind that, just a little dog barking.
Yeah. No, I get what she's getting at too. It's really, really neat to show kind of how, his spark, what he thinks is his spark, ends up just kind of being his purpose. All right. Yep. Picking up with the characters. I thought the characters were pretty good in this story. Obviously, we have Joe Gardner and 22 being the main characters of this film, played by Jamie Foxx and Tina Fey. I think a lot of the side characters in this film are mainly there as plot devices, right, to kind of guide Joe and 22 on their journey. But overall, I gave it an 8. I thought the characters were done pretty well in this story.
Yeah, the characters for me, a lot of Pixar movies, they mainly focus just on the main character itself. It's kind of different than normal films where you can kind of see one-dimensional, but animation is there. Some of them are just trying to bring in one-liner comedy bits to it, or they're villains kind of pieces to it. For this, there's no sole villain. There's the one of the workers of the soul world that goes through and travels through trying to get him, and then accidentally traumatizes the one dude for the rest of his life. Right after Joe Gardner cooks him in the barber shop, or 22 cooks him, and then he just gets traumatized right afterwards. And I was like, dude, that's a horrible day for that guy. He's just never going to recover from that ever. But yeah, I like the characters.
I like the characters as well. I really like 22 because her soul, she just hates everything. She's like, what? Why do I have to do any of this? What's the point of going down to earth and things like that? And I think Joe is really neat as well. And watching him progress throughout the movie, we see him, he's kind of lonely, but he thinks his life is he's just living a typical life and trying to find, his passion. He's a part-time music teacher, but he really wants to be in a band, a jazz band, and that's what he thinks his purpose is. I think it was really interesting to see the characters interact in the barbershop, because we kind of got to see a different perspective of his life too. He's like, oh, I always talk about jazz with him, and then at the end he was like, well, you only ever want to talk about jazz. That's why we never talk about anything else. So I think I really liked the characters in this movie and how they develop and things like that.
Yeah, shout out to the barber. He was probably my favorite side character, just because I think it was really cool to see that depicted, as it is the barber culture itself is a part of Black culture itself, and seeing it demonstrated in a Pixar film was cool for the first time, and seeing how the barbers are just taught, and part of their job is just directing the conversation whatever the way their customer wants to go. So he was never going to try to wanting him to question him about his life, but rather 22 was just interested because that's just who she is, like interested about what he wanted to be and all that, and seeing the different purposes of someone's life.
Yeah, I think Angelina Bassett as Dorothea Williams was pretty good too, kind of being a symbol of everything that Joe's always wanted, just for him to realize that, it was a lot greater in his head than him actually doing it, which was interesting. But getting into animation style, I gave it an 8. I thought the animation was really well done, contrasted like a photorealistic world with a very textured and kind of warm lit design, which was neat to me. I also did some digging, kind of built the characters based off NASA's aerogel. It was, I don't know if you guys know what that is, but it's kind of like a 2D gel, but it has like a 3D form, which was kind of interesting way to look at it. I never would have thought anything like that would be part of animation, but neat to see.
Yeah. No, the characters themselves, like once they pull out of his body, it was quite interesting, like the concept of how they built them and like, oh, like the souls are like not touchable because like they're just like having buildings follow them and all that. And then they go back into theirs. I mean, Pixar is really just known for having really good animation, and like this is just another really good animated movie. I don't know how else to put it.
I think this animation style is definitely, I think you can see that it's like a newer Pixar like animation style rather than like some of their older work, because this one came out in 2020. I think you could definitely through then you can kind of see like a shift to their newer animation styles. Like it's more clean cut, brighter, things like that, which I really liked. I think this movie does a good job of like using color and outlining things like that.
Yeah. And then getting into dialogue, I gave it a 10. I thought this movie was super quotable. My favorite line is towards the end when, Joe's kind of getting his second chance at life and she's kind of asking him, what are you going to do? And Joe says, I'm not sure, but what I do know is I'm going to live every minute of it. I just thought that was so important to his character arc, taking advantage for the time that he has rather than focusing on, his passion and what he wants to do all the time and kind of letting life slip by him. I think that was really important to his character and a really great quote.
Yeah, there's two things that I want to point out with I mess with this team all the time, and then it being the Knicks, I thought was one of the funnier lines. But the Knicks just won a playoff series, so we'll see if the Souls are still messing with them, if 22 still messing with them out there. But another thing I want to point out is this movie reminds me a lot of the movie About Time, about just enjoying the little parts of life that sometimes you're like, oh, dude, this is annoying, but then taking a step back and enjoying that like life is what it is. Even the small, minute details of it can be enjoyable from the fact that you're just living in it and being able to smell, being able to see, be able to eat food and taste, like just small stuff like that.
Yeah, I think the dialogue was good. I think too, there definitely was parts that were like a lot, I guess to me, like deeper. They had like a deeper meaning. But there was still like casual conversations and humor to it, just like there was any Pixar movie. Anyways. But like I said, I think the dialogue was good. You hit different parts and things like that.
For world building, a little bit of a newer one here, kind of going off of what we would call the set design in a typical movie, I guess.
Yeah,
I thought it was very highly imaginative. Obviously, New York looked really, really good. I think that was well done, but also, the Great Before was done really interestingly. Obviously, you have all these different subsections of kind of where they send kids to kind of build their personality traits, which is really interesting. And, kind of looked like a dream world. I thought it looked very, very neat and very interesting designed in that like kind of metaphysical realm. I gave it a 10 in that aspect.
Yeah. We decided to do this new category for world building just to go with animated films because set design, world building is kind of like similar thing, but world building is more so like how the world itself is set in for the animated film. And for Soul itself, I thought was, like you said, highly imaginative, but I think it's super creative, like the way that they created that. You said it's from a NASA like basis of how they created like the Soul characters.
Mm-hmm.
New York was really cool as well. And then like even like the overlooking of like when they're jumping from real world into the Soul world and then they turned gray. I thought that was also a cool addition of like to the world building of itself.
One of my favorite parts is when they go to like the zone area and like how they transition from the one part where they're like introducing his hall of thing, and then they go into like the place where it's like people are when they're in the zone. I really liked that and how you could see different people like in the zone and things like that, and like the lost souls as well. Those are one of my favorite parts about the world in itself.
Yeah, that was cool.
Getting into acting, I gave it a 9, or voice acting, I guess you could say. Specifically, I think Jamie Foxx and Tina Fey did a really good job at having expressive vocal performances. You could really feel emotion in their characters, and that's such a huge thing, especially when, they're filming these lines, not really sure what's going to be getting animated and displayed to general audiences. So seeing their vocal performances being so ecstatic and loud, I guess you could say, with emotion is really important. And obviously we know they're pretty great actors, so no question here that they couldn't take on this task.
Yeah, as everyone knows on this podcast, I'm a big fan of Jamie Foxx. So yeah, he was really good in this role as well.
Yeah, and then getting into directing, I gave it a 9. Done by Pete Docter and co-directed by Kemp Powers. I've never heard of these two before, but maybe they've worked at Pixar before. I'm not sure if anybody knows. Obviously, very existential themes around this movie, which we'll get into in a little bit. But kind of want to talk about the cinematography too. I think it was really well done, very hyper realistic, very also ethereal feeling throughout this movie. Even being back on Earth, I thought the ethereal feeling still kind of hung around, especially, being in different bodies and everything like that. But I thought the lighting and color palettes were really well done in this film as well.
Yeah, Pete Docter is like one of the OGs of Pixar, it seems like. He directed Monsters, Inc., came up with that story, came out with the story of Toy Story and Toy Story 2. He came out, wrote the story for WALL-E, directed the movie for Up, directed Inside Out, and wrote the story, and then did Soul as well. And now, since it seems 2012, he's the executive producer on almost all Pixar films. So he's a big part of Pixar's team itself. So pretty crucial part, and it's cool to see him, like, even though he's in an executive role, it seems like he still puts himself as a director, even in like a 2020 film.
I think the directing overall was done well. I think there's kind of a good balance of, again, like seriousness and humor. We kind of see different aspects of that throughout the movie. And then, like Justin mentioned, like the color palettes, I think were done really well. Like when they were in like the Great Before, we see like these darker color palettes, or the zone is like these darker color palettes, but then like he's back on Earth and it's like brighter, and there's like a lot more colors where it's like there's more like blues and purples up there and things like that.
For soundtrack, I gave it a 9. I'm a huge fan of jazz, so probably no question here that I would really like this soundtrack. I thought it was really cool how the different compositions between, being on Earth, we were kind of surrounded by the jazz in Joe Gardner's life. And then, being in the Great Before, you're kind of hit with like these heavy synths and electric score, which I thought was really cool. And this did win the Grammy for Best Original Score this year. So pretty neat to see that as well.
Yep. Bringing back the conversation of Trent Reznor as maybe up there as one of the best score producers, because he came out with this, and then he also did Social Network, The Challengers, one of the biggest snubs of original score of all time. And he was able to work with John Batiste to also do this. So it's just, I like how you said before that maybe he's not there with Ludwig, but I would disagree. I think he's up there with Ludwig. I just don't think he gets as much recognition as Ludwig does.
I don't really have much to add. I really liked sounds and sound effects. I thought the jazz music was a nice touch. Well, not a nice touch, but I thought it was really interesting.
Getting into theme, I gave it a 10. Obviously, really deep themes here compared to, what I would say as deep themes in other Pixar movies. Really what I took away from this, the meaning of life, the pursuit of, your passion, and just understanding that you have one life and you should take advantage of what you want to do with it. The value of everyday experiences over, kind of just like a singular experience. Like we saw with Joe, him just wanting to have that one performance as a jazz artist, but he's not enjoying his everyday life around him. And then, the idea of like a predetermined purpose being a part of your character was interesting as well.
Yeah, it's like a sense of like determinism of like what determines where you want to go in life, but also like every person has a main objective of their life, or like something they want to complete. And once they get there, what's next? Like that isn't the end of your life. It's not like you complete this and then everything's just going to be automatically A-okay. Life is 100%. It's like, no, you got to move on and be able to go after different objectives. So I think that movie really hits on that, because once he plays like this perfect set that he's looked forward to his whole life, he's like, now what? And,
Yeah.
and then they're like, well, we do it again tomorrow. And he's like, is this it? And then I thought that was really interesting to bring in because it's like each of us like probably has like our own objective that we want to complete. And it's like, what's after that? Life is constantly trying to move to different objectives in your life to continue going. So I think that it's a really cool theme.
I think I keep talking about it, but I think like one of my favorite themes about this overall movie is just like having passions for things, like you were saying, like different objectives. Like in the beginning, he thought he had to help 22 find her spark. So he thought, well, it can only be so many things. Like you have to have your passion. And I think throughout the movie, we see his perspective change and understand that you might have this one passion you want in life, but it might not necessarily be what your spark is. He sits down at the piano, he empties out his pockets and sees all these things that 22 had done throughout the day in New York. He realizes that, it's more 22's spark wasn't something, it was the purpose of living, having something to live for. And it was experiencing different parts of life.
Yeah. It's just life itself. What's her spark?
And getting into editing, I gave this movie an 8. Something interesting I wanted to bring up about this movie. I was reading about the script was actually finalized months after production had already began. It underwent very constant and major revisions through the creative process, which is interesting. I read that there was 7 major iterations of this movie that were eventually cut and ended up on this film, which is interesting. A lot of times we see this happen with big films and it really goes downhill fast. It doesn't typically work out, but I guess, you just trust in Pixar to kind of figure it out. And I think they did here.
That's cool. I didn't know that at all. That they have 12 different forms of this movie out there that they'll probably never let the public see, but they got to see every version and they chose this one. I just wonder what kind of themes they were going after, because I feel like the soul itself is like such an interesting thing to go after. So I understand why they had so many different avenues that could have gone down.
I think it was a well put together movie. And like Tyler said, that was really interesting to find out there was different variations of this. But overall, I thought it was put together well.
Getting into the final score, I gave it a 9.0 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10, as Tyler likes to say, a 5-star movie. I really enjoyed this one. I'm happy you guys enjoyed it as well. I think this movie is one of I can most closely relate with this Pixar movie compared to a lot of others. I think the themes just hit me well. The music hits me well. I really enjoyed watching this one.
Yeah, I gave it an 8.2 out of 10 or 82 out of 100. I really enjoyed this film as well. I definitely think the last 20 minutes definitely carries the film, just like the deeper parts of the theme. But Pixar, they're going to make you tear up or rethink your life at the end of every single one of their movies, I feel like. So
I gave the overall movie a 92. Like, I just really enjoyed it. I liked the colors, themes, the overall characters. And I just thought it was like interesting too, because it's a new story for Pixar. It's not a story that's continuing or already been really done.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, that was Soul, my first watch of that one. And then this other one, Coco, 2 one-word titles that we decided to do this week. Coco being another movie that I hadn't seen before. And it really follows this young Hispanic boy who really wants to play music, but his family doesn't like music because their father or the great grandfather ruined the family's like heritage and all that, and kind of ruined the family for years and abandoned the mother. And it's really staying on the family left because of music. So then they don't like music being involved in their family at all. But he's like, this isn't fair to me. I'm not him. I just want to play music. But then strings the old guitar and then goes into the Day of the Dead world. Kind of just a switch up, finds his old family who recognizes him, but he doesn't recognize them, obviously. And also, they're all dead people except for him. He's like the only living boy in that world. But they have to make a promise to him in order for him to go back to the real world. But they promise for him not to play music. Then goes to who he thinks is his great-great-grandfather. But there's a plot twist in the film where it's not actually his great-great-grandfather. And he actually murdered his great-great-grandfather. And then him and his great-great-grandfather actually really like each other. They already were friends before that, leading to a story. And then turns out that he's actually a really good guy, and then makes a promise to him, and then he's allowed to play music because it ends really nicely with them remembering him. Because in order to stay in that world, you need family to have a picture of you on the wall and for them to remember you as well. So yeah, hopefully that summed up the whole plot. Hour and 45-minute movie, but
Yeah.
Overall, I gave the plot an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed this movie. The different set pieces of it all as well. But like the plot was really cool. The Day of the Dead, like this movie doesn't exist without like the Day of the Dead celebration and like Hispanic culture themes of it, which I think Pixar hasn't done a lot of like culture pieces, like setting a world throughout like a culture. And I think this Coco is like probably the best example of it doing that.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I definitely appreciate a lot of the twists and turns that go on in this plot. Definitely keeps the viewer intrigued throughout the whole movie. Yeah, I really enjoyed this plot.
I love Coco. It's actually like one of my top Pixar movies. I'll say for like the plot, it's definitely a good story. I like Justin said, like the twists and turns. And I like it too because it hits a lot on like family and traditions, and kind of also too like discovering like, who you want to be and things like that.
Yeah. And then betrayal and famous people. What are you willing to do to be famous? But it's like killed somebody. So like not a good dude. But it's built up to be a good dude until that twist. Characters, I gave it 8 out of 10. We talked about with Soul where like a lot of the side characters seemed like to be one-liners where all side characters are family members. And you can like feel the love of the family within each other. So they're just trying to do what's best for each other. But like Hector is probably my favorite character because right away he's like really fun and whimsical, but then he gets super deep towards the back end of the film, and you like feel bad for this guy because he was like this super whimsical guy, but you just like, man, he just really got screwed up in his like real life. You just want a happy ending for him in like the afterlife.
Yeah, I think all the side characters were done really well. Obviously, such a heavy focus on family, so having all the different family members kind of support him on his journey and his journey to find his, his real great grandfather was so important to the plot, and I think it was done well, both the family members in the land of the dead, but also in the real world as well.
I really like the characters. Miguel is one of my favorites. And like you kind of talked about Hector, we kind of saw him sing for the first time when he went to like the land of the forgotten and he sung that like the last song for his friend before he completely vanished. Like they call it like their final or second death. And I thought that was like kind of a moment you kind of realize like maybe he's not really like this bad person. It's just kind of a bad situation. But then we see Miguel realizing that he really just wants his family in the end. Like he cares about their traditions and he cares about his mama Coco and all of things like that. So I think the characters are really well done in this movie.
Yeah. Animation style, I gave it a 10. I thought the animation style in this movie was so cool. The Day of the Dead, like world setting was so cool as well. I can get like, world building itself, but the animation of it all, super cool. The skeleton bodies that are able to detach from each other as they're running. It's really whimsical, like at like chase sequences as well. And then really neon colors as well, with a lot of like the animals like being Soul, and then it turns out it's just like a little small cat, but he's like this crazy dragon cat thing, and the afterworld.
Yeah, I think the contrast between the real world and the land of the dead is so interesting and so well done. Obviously, you're gonna have young viewers watching this movie, so to make sure that they understand the contrast, you really have to step it up and do a lot of different colors, a lot of different designs, and everything like that. And I think they did a great job at doing that.
I agree. I think one of the cooler scenes is when he first realizes he's like in like the in between and he like looks out into like the grave and he sees like there's real people but there's also skeletons. I think that was really neat. And like Tyler mentioned, I think the neon was really interesting
Yeah.
as well when they went onto that side.
And then for dialogue, I gave it 8 out of 10 to where I really enjoyed a lot of like the sentimental talking in the second half of the film. And then just a lot of like different like Hispanic culture messaging throughout the film as well that I thought was really crucial to the film and unique for Pixar in any animated film, really.
Yeah, I think my favorite quote from this is probably nothing's more important than family. Such an important part of the film and the plot, but also Miguel kind of realizing that, family is just as important as his passion. And if he wants to pursue his passion, having his family's support is just as important.
I think the dialogue is another thing that was done great with this movie. I think back in including like the singing, because there's a lot of singing obviously within this movie. I think that was well done with like where the music was placed in, and like Justin mentioned, a lot of the discussion of family, and I think like some of the I guess, arguments or discussions between the family, I think were well done too. How he had his passions and he just wanted them to understand, but he didn't fully, he didn't really get their side. So I think that too, like there was conflict with that. And I think that was done well with the dialogue. And in the end, we see how they resolve together and become a happier family.
Yeah. The voice acting in this, I gave it 8 out of 10. I thought it was really well done. Pixar, I think, does really well voice acting as well, like adaptations. And then Justin brought it up with Soul, how hard it is when you don't actually know what the finished product is, of like showing like expressions through just a voice itself. It always interests me to see how these people do it. Like, do they just read the script and they're like, feel this emotion and then say it? And you're just like, seems for me really hard, but I guess that's why they're professional actors.
Yeah, I think the voice acting was done really well. No different than Soul, really. I think everybody was super expressive, which really builds that character even a step further when it comes to their depth and emotion.
I think I'd have to just pretty much agree and say, like, you can really feel the emotions through the voice acting, and I think that helps a lot overall with the movie.
Yeah. And then getting to sound effects, more soundtrack, just like Soul, like where Soul was centered around jazz, this is centered around like Hispanic like music, different types of it as well within itself. And I thought that was all really cool. Definitely a different type of soundtrack of music in any animation film, I think, ever. That you have to give it a pretty high score just based off of that.
Yeah, pretty amazing soundtrack. Obviously, the Oscar-winning song "Remember Me" was a big hit, but yeah, just inspired by like traditional Hispanic folk music was so awesome, and the guitar was animated really well throughout the whole movie.
Yeah,
a lot of times people get lazy with that, but I think it was done pretty well in this movie.
I did really like the soundtrack. This is probably one Pixar movie that I have the songs like on my like playlist and stuff, especially like Un Poco Loco, Remember Me. Those are songs like I just know. And I think what's too cool, especially with the music and the culture, is they didn't just really focus on like Miguel's, but they also brought in like other, like we saw the, like different bands perform on stage when they were just like setting up for like the, and then we just see that different parts of it. And then when he gets to De La Cruz's mansion, he enters like from the outside to the inside. We hear this like more upbeat, like cultural music, which I think is really interesting as well. And then he goes back to because I think they call it like a grito, and then he starts singing his songs again, which kind of like tones it down when it comes to like that part of the music.
Yeah, really cool. Like sound design throughout the film with adding like the small inserts throughout. World building, or also known as set design, I gave it a 10. It's part of like the Day of the Dead world building of it all, the afterlife, how it all works. I thought it was really cool and just really unique and really just beautiful to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird thinking about it now, but we did, two of Pixar's best soundtracked movies, I'd assume, and then also one kind of focusing on the before life, right, with the souls, and then the afterlife with Day of the Dead and everything like that is very interesting. But yeah, I think they built the world just as well. I think that city, that town looks so amazing, and it was so well done. And they also kind of getting into, like actual world building. They explained all the rules of how it all works really well, and it never felt lost or anything like that.
Yeah.
And they explained the rules of how the world works, how you have to be remembered, everything like that. It was pretty easy to track. I imagine for kids as well.
Yeah, I will say that. I think, Justin, that was actually a really cool concept you thought about, like the before and after. But I liked like the part about like crossing the bridge, and I think that part was really neat. And then too, like the glowing of like the flowers. I really liked how like that was kind of worked into things, and you like the afterlife. I really liked the colors and how bright everything was, and like the neon that was added onto the animals. And I thought it was actually really cool, like that the animals were able to like sense them. I thought that was like another really cool aspect of it. Like they could see these things, but humans couldn't. And another one, I really liked the scene where they were like in the cave, him and Hector, and like just the water and like the brightness. I think that was really done well. Overall, I think this is a great movie that was put together beautifully.
Yeah, really cool world building. Directing, I gave it 9 out of 10. I really liked the way that he went direction with this movie, and like a twist like that. It happens in a lot of Pixar movies where like, oh no, they're actually the villain, or sometimes it's like kind of set up to be a main villain. I think this was really like well done in the way where like the actual like hero of the story was there the whole time, kind of thing. He was like, neither of them knew that was a great grandfather. We didn't know, and then you figure out that like, it was actually him doing all the music the whole time. And I thought was like a really unique twist for it. This director also did Toy Story 3, which is like one of my top movies of Pixar of all time. So like it's really unique that he did Toy Story 3 and Coco. I was like, oh wow, that's like kind of two way different range of like kind of animation kind of films.
Yeah, I think the directing was really well done. Obviously, such an interesting story, but also, having to do the work to bring this culture into the big screen, right? And you want to make sure you display that correctly. And I think it was done really well here.
Find it interesting, Tyler, that you said this director also did Toy Story 3, because that kind of makes sense because you think about like Lotso and then De La Cruz and like, I mean, obviously I think we learned about him in Toy Story 3 earlier, but I
Yeah.
think it does make sense when you think
Yeah.
about it like that.
Yeah. Like two like true villains that like aren't like redeemable by any means, who both are given options to redeem themselves and then never do. Editing, I gave a 8 out of 10. I thought it's part of like animation style, world building, and then also like the plot or script of it all that I thought was really well done. Just editing it all together.
Yeah, I think it looked like a really good movie. I think the transition scenes were really well done. Obviously, the animation style was really well done. Yeah, it was great. Well done.
I think you guys kind of summed it up. I think it was edited great. The worlds blended well together. Transitions looked good. Not much more to add there.
Yeah, and they said like during like the art director said that they had to figure out how to give skeletons personality without skin, muscles, noses, or even lips. So they had to play with a lot of shapes and a lot of paintings. And so I thought that was really unique as well as like probably a really hard challenge as an animator, where like all you have to play with is like shapes rather than like different parts of like a human body. For theme, I gave it a 9 out of 10. To where compared to Soul, where Soul is like a super deep ending theme, while the end of this is more like family. Family's really awesome, but that's also like a redeeming story. But I still thought it was like a really cool story and cool theme to bring out of it, like a family heritage kind of thing.
Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, at its core, both these movies are just about a guy who wants to play music really bad and trying to get his
Yeah.
family approval.
Yeah.
While also figuring out finding his purpose in doing so, which is very interesting. But
Yeah.
definitely this movie leans a lot more on family legacy and themes of having your family being your biggest support system, right? That's such a huge thing. And I think it was really well done.
I think, like you guys said, family is a big theme of this, but I think as well as family, I think it's also about family traditions and following your families. We also see themes of betrayal because they thought that Hector had betrayed them and left them, and that's why they didn't like music, and they never wanted to mention him, or they never wanted to upset Mama Coco about it. But in reality, like Mama Coco was the reason he was still there in the afterlife. So like we have the remembering aspects of it, the betrayal, De La Cruz, family traditions. I think music is another big theme of this. But I think the overall would be the family and staying connected with your family, having the support of your family, having a loving family, and understand that sometimes families can have hardships and different things like that.
Yeah. So overall, I gave it an 8.7 out of 10 or 87 out of 100. I really enjoyed Coco, 4.5-star movie for me. Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Yeah. I gave it 86 or an 86 out of 100. So right there with you. I really enjoyed this movie. I remember watching this in high school in Spanish class a lot. And yeah, really good movie.
Man, I never watched this in Spanish class. My teacher wasn't cool enough, I guess.
I gave this movie a 9.4 out of 10 or a 94 out of 100. It's like my favorite one.
Alrighty then. That gives me some insight about where you're about to go with some of this.
I think we might.
Yeah, that wraps up like our thoughts about the two movies for Soul and Coco. But we're gonna go right into like a Pixar ranking of all their movies, but we're just gonna rank their top 20. So leaving out 10 films from the top 20, which I think it makes the first part of this really interesting. And I think there's some films that if they're left off, I'm going to be incredibly disappointed. But so how this does work is a collaborative ranking to where each of us get a pick, like 20 through 1, with like being groups of A, B, C, A, B, C. So team A gets 1, 4, 7, 10, 13, 16, and 19. B gets 2, 5, 8, 11, 14, 17, and 20. And then C gets the rest of the picks. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and 18. So one less pick than the rest of them. With that, Team A gets one veto and one veto override. So you can cancel out a veto, but it can't be your own pick. So like if you pick something and somebody tries to veto it, you can't override them from your pick. So if somebody else picks something, and then somebody else vetoes it, you want to override their veto, so keeping that movie in their place, then you can do that. So that's how that works. Team B gets only one veto, and then Team C, since they got one less pick, they get two vetoes. And how the vetoes work is pretty much just if you don't like where the movie is, you could be like, nope, veto. So you either move it up higher or just keep it off the list entirely. Alrighty. So we'll do the wheel of names, and then whenever you guys pick whatever team, I can run over which picks it is again for you. Because I know it's 20. So, all right, let's see. Get to pick the first team. The wheel gets to go right back to Justin. So, Justin, you get to pick.
Yeah, I'll take A.
Okay, so one veto and one veto override. Okay, awesome. All righty. Let's see if it's me or Madison. It's going to be Madison.
Give me Team C.
Okay. So you get two vetoes. Do you want me to say the numbers again, or?
Yeah, if you can real fast.
Okay. So Team C has picks 3, 6, 12, 15, 18. And then I'll be Team B with only one sole veto. But that means I get to go first. So it's an interesting way to go with this film. Oh, I've seen 25 out of the 30 films. So I'm missing out on Elio, Luca, Finding Dory, Elemental, and The Good Dinosaur. So I don't feel right to rank those at all. So I'm going to go with my number 19 pick first. Actually, I'm going to go with one that if it's not in here, I'm going to be pissed. A Bug's Life. I'm going to go with that 20.
God damn, that's like really low.
Yeah.
I thought you guys wouldn't like that movie. That's why.
I like A Bug's Life.
All right, man. I mean, I guess if you want to put it that low, that was like borderline top 10 for me.
Really? Interesting.
Yes.
It's not even close to top 10 for me.
Yeah, I guess I'll go ahead and take one I kind of liked. One you mentioned you haven't seen. I thought it was pretty decent, though. I'll go ahead and take Luca at 19. Good movie. I definitely recommend watching it. You'll see why that made the list compared to some other ones.
All right, Madison.
I have seen. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's your pick.
I know. I have seen all 30 Pixar movies. Only here at 18, I have Elemental ranked. I don't think you said you've seen that one. Justin, have you seen this one?
No, but there's going to be some stuff left off for sure.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah,
big
I mean,
ones.
I know,
Okay.
I know this
taking
is a
Elemental
newer
this
one.
early.
I like
Yeah.
the story of it.
Interesting. See where we go with this. Because there are some there's two big universes in this, I would say. With multiple, more than two movies, with it being Toy Story movies, obviously, and then Cars has 3 movies, Finding Nemo has 2, Monsters Inc. has 2,
The Incredibles has 2.
Incredibles has 2. Alrighty, so the next movie I'm going to go for at number 17, sorry, is I'm going to go with Cars 3.
That's a good pick there.
I like Cars 3. My nephews love the Cars movies, so every time they come over to my parents' house, they put on one of them. I'm like, which one do you want to see this time? And it's either 1, 2, or 3. I like 3 a lot, though.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and take Monsters University here. I like this movie. I think it's a good time. It's not Monsters, Inc., but it is a good film.
Yeah, I definitely had that outside of that was my second to last one, but I'm saving my veto for a certain movie.
All right, this is another newer one, but I really enjoyed it. I have Inside Out 2 here.
That's fair.
I saw Inside Out 2 on opening day with the Inside Out shirt on, all by myself. So I'm a real Inside Out fan over here. Just like to point that out.
All right, it's about to get live.
14. I'm just going to do it. Going to rip the Band-Aid off and get a veto, definitely. I'm going to put Soul here.
Jesus Christ, you're out of pocket. All right, so you gave Soul, a 90 today? And you think that there is 13?
I gave it an 82. I gave it 82.
I thought you gave it, I was thinking Mad, maybe. Yeah, I mean, that's not the one I'm going to be fighting for, so unless Mad wants to veto it.
No, I think that, I have it in in my own ranking, I have it at 12.
Oh, okay, so we're not that far off from each other.
Yeah, it's my number 4.
Wow.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get one out of Tyler here. I'm going to go ahead and take Inside Out.
Could I use one here because, I am an Inside Out fiend. It's number 5 for me.
It's 15 for me.
So you took a little up from where you usually take it.
Yeah, but I know it needs to be there.
Inside Out's above Soul. What matters to me?
Right.
Matt?
So what number are we on?
12.
Don't do it. There's a certain movie I'm looking at if you put it.
Okay, I'm back. Number 12. I'm kind of all thrown off right now because I'm like trying to like go. Number 12. I'm going to go with Cars 2.
That's a good one. A lot of people hate on this.
I hate fucking Cars.
I
2,
know
bro.
for a fact that Cars 2 is the lowest rated Pixar movie on Rotten Tomatoes, on everything. I know it's the lowest rated, but I really enjoy Cars 2.
Deserves
I know
it.
it's like the whole. You don't like Cars 2?
No. But I hate Lightyear more and Brave. I think both of those ones are just trash. But Cars 2, I don't like at all.
I enjoy Cars 2.
But I
I
honestly
love
thought you guys were trying to push it to top 5. So I was like, you motherfuckers, like if you put Cars 2 top 5, I could throw some shit around
Cars
the
2
throat.
is an amazing movie.
You got
Yeah,
Mater out here
well,
doing spy work.
Yeah, too bad Cars is supposed to be around Lightning McQueen, not fucking Mater.
I plan on bringing it up in our espionage films, actually. Top 5 espionage film.
Well, it
Well,
could stay at
technically
12.
it's just Cars.
So I use a veto here, it doesn't matter. It's just going to go higher. All right, number 11. Number 11. Trying to see what movies we got to start locking in. Like if we don't lock in, we're definitely going to miss out something. So I'm going to go with something I had a little bit back, but I'm going with Up.
Number 11?
It's wild.
I had it at number 12.
Well, that's a veto for me. No.
Okay. I don't think you're going to like my other option. I'm going Ratatouille.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a veto for me. I don't know what he's playing here.
I'm really curious to know what your own ranking list looks like.
It's almost like I got it public on Letterboxd, but do not look at it right now. Look at it
I
afterwards.
thought you said you made it private.
Yeah, it did because I didn't want you guys cheating. All right then. I'm gonna go with Toy Story here.
What are you on?
I'm really questioning you right now.
Man, I love it. But yeah,
All right, man. I'm going to go ahead and take Incredibles at 10.
I agree with that one. That's where I have it myself.
Incredibles.
There's just better movies.
I don't think so.
Okay. So we're at
It's
number
a 5-star
9.
film.
Okay. Number 9, I'm going to go here and I'm going to put Monsters, Inc.
Okay.
Is that one
I have
good?
that one at like 7, so this is about where I had it.
I have it at 8 on my own list, but
All I know is like the 2 movies that I vetoed, you guys better put up because I'm not gonna say them again. Number 8, I'm gonna go with Coco here.
Yeah, that's fine.
Madison, do you want to use a veto?
no, I'm going to keep my mouth shut.
You want to use a veto? You said it's your favorite, so it's your number 1.
I know it's my favorite, but I'm really scared for your top like 5, 1 through 5 right now. So I think I have more important things to worry about.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and take Toy Story 3.
This is number 2 for me. I
So
really like
we're
Toy
on
Story
number-
3. 6.
I'm going to go with Finding Nemo.
I'm not really good at math, but we're definitely gonna miss one out.
Yeah, we're going to.
I mean, we still have Ratatouille, Cars, Onward, The Incredible. No, we did Incredibles.
Do not say Onward. What the hell? Why did you even say that movie?
Yeah, dude, come on.
I'm just looking at like what
Okay.
still could potentially be in your guys' tops list.
Cars. You got Cars, Wall-E, Toy Story 2, Ratatouille. I feel like that has to be like top 5, right?
You're not gonna. I'm not a big fan of Wall-E. It's not even in my top.
I don't know what
5.
other movie you would think about.
Who's up?
It's me. I'm trying to game this out now because you got top 5 and I just said 5 movies and she's like, when I said Cars,
Going to have like Turning Red or something.
Wall-E, Toy Story 2, Ratatouille, and Up. I feel like that's the top 5.
Yeah,
That's
that's fair.
That's
top
like the clear top 5 left.
Not in my opinion, but I mean, I don't even
Alright,
Wall-E. Like I said, it's not even in my top 20.
All right, bet.
Tyler, save that
I'm gonna
veto.
go. Yeah, I know I am. Whatever she's about. Whatever bullshit she's about. Pull it up. All right. So here I'm gonna put Up then.
Yeah.
All right,
And
Justin. It's your
here,
pick.
I think I'm going to go ahead and go Wall-E.
Yeah.
This
There we
one's
go.
the fun one.
So what we're at 3,
Mm-hmm.
Toy Story 2.
Okay. I don't mind that.
What craziness was she talking about?
I don't know.
I don't think, well, because I also have Coco in my top 5. Like that's my number 1.
But we already
And
took
I
that.
wasn't. I understand
you're-
we already took that, but I knew you guys liked Wall-E. I don't like Like it's not like one of my Pixar movies. I like I've watched it like twice. Whereas the others I've watched tens of times.
Okay. Then here, I'm going to take Ratatouille.
Damn. Okay. See, that was my number one, and now I have no idea what is number one.
There's a clear number one that we
Come
haven't said yet.
on.
Dude, it's Cars.
Yeah.
That's the one great movie left.
I thought we took Cars.
No,
No,
we took Cars 2
See, I
Cars
wrote
3.
Coco down
and
really
3.
sloppily, and I thought
Yeah.
that was okay. Yeah. Yeah, I'll take Cars. I'm not mad at that.
Okay.
Okay.
This was
like
my end goal and why I didn't use Vito, because I wanted Cars number one, because it is my number one by far.
It's my number 2.
It's my 5.
So, fun thing about Cars, this was my first movie I ever saw in a movie theater with my grandma. So it's like it got a lot of nostalgia value to me, where it's the first ever movie theater movie. Life is a Highway. I think I played on repeat for 3 years. Lightning McQueen is my hero. I love Lightning McQueen. And I think that's why I hate the second one so much, because it's not centered around Lightning McQueen. And I'm like, dude, this is a Lightning McQueen franchise. So that's
But
why I don't like Cars 2.
I can also see why they kind of pivoted in Cars 2 rather than focusing on Lightning McQueen again for an entire movie.
It just doesn't feel like a Cars-centric movie like the first one does for me. Like Cars, the first one is such a grounded story, and then they just go crazy with it in the second one. And I think I like.
I don't
They
think we-
definitely take a left turn in Cars 2, and then Cars 3, we're kind of like back on track where we are with Cars, the first one.
I
But
don't think we left
think-
anything crazy off.
No.
Uh,
If we want to go through like our personal ranking,
Let me just say your top 5.
okay.
I
My
got
top
mine.
5. My number 5 is Finding Nemo. Number 4, Inside Out. Number 3, The Incredibles. Number 2, Toy Story 3. And number 1, Cars.
Mine is number 5, Cars. Number 4, Soul. Number 3, Monsters, Inc. Number 2, Toy Story. And number 1, Ratatouille.
my number 5 is Finding Nemo. My number 4 is Up. My number 3 is Toy Story 2. My number 2 is Cars. And my number 1 is Coco.
Cool,
Yeah,
cool.
I had turning red at 13, and I thought for some reason that's what you were talking about putting up high, and I was like, he does not deserve. I think it deserved to be on the list, but like probably at the bottom, I would say, like maybe around 20. But all 3 Cars movies got in here, so shout out
Yeah.
to Cars,
Yeah.
And Toy Story 2.
Toy Story 2, and Toy Story 3, and Toy Story.
Yeah, yeah.
So three
I mean,
out of the
meaning
4.
all the Toy Story ones got in as
Nope.
well.
Well,
not Toy
technically,
Story
there's
4.
Toy Story 4.
No, I maybe I forgot to tell you guys, those don't count as actual movies for me, anything after 3. So
Does it-
for
does
me,
it-
yeah, everything got in.
Does it count as part of the 30 for Justin? Both
What do you mean?
monsters, both
They only
like,
made 29.
yeah. God damn it. Both of the Monsters movies got in too. Finding Dory left out. And
But you said you just
Incredibles-
watched that one, right?
Don't
No, I
bring up
didn't watch it.
Incredibles 2, like that's a good movie.
No, I just brought it up, but like, no, I didn't like it either.
I saw that one in theaters.
I think
it
I
came
had
out.
it like 21.
That's a Toy Story 4 level bad.
Yeah.
I have it at 21.
I'm just glad none of you are like Lightyear stands in here, so that's good. I thought one of
Yeah.
you would have been like, yeah, Lightyear. And I've been like, you're bad, really bad take.
No, I
Lightyear
wasn't a big
sucks.
fan of that one.
And then Brave is just the most forgettable Pixar movie. Like,
The Good Dinosaur is weird.
Hoppers is also weird to me. I don't know. I thought I would
I
like it
really
more.
enjoyed Hoppers. I liked it.
Bro,
have
Bugs
it in my
Life is
top.
too low.
It is a little low.
Yeah, I regret putting it there because I actually had it at like 13. But I thought for some reason I thought you guys hated it because I looked at your letterbox and it was like you guys gave it 3.5 stars and I was like, dude, they fucking hate it. I was like, they're not even gonna put it. So my bad.
It's a good
you guys
movie.
would-
It's not.
If you guys
don't
would have
even
like
have it
vetoed it
rated.
and then I would have brought it up later. Yeah, that's what made me think you hated it even more. I was like, oh, dude, she hasn't even rated it, which means she hates it.
No, I think when I first got Letterboxd, I was just like trying to add everything I'd seen. So instead of like rating everything, like I was just clicking the watch thing. So like I could just like kind of like have it all there. But I just have never
Yeah.
gone back and ranked everything.
He took a Bug's Life, and I thought for sure a Toy Story 4 was making the list somehow. I was like, oh, we're so screwed.
No,
No,
Toy
I
Story
don't-
4 is
I don't
actually
like
my
that
number
one.
20. It's actually my number 20.
God.
Okay, cool.
That is
Awesome.
high.
Should I read through the top 20 or just look at the graphic on Instagram? And you can hate on us all you want, but I feel like it's a solid top 10, in my opinion. Solid top 10. Some people are obviously going to think I think Toy Story may get the most hit, being a number 11, if I had to take a guess. And maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for listening this week. talking about Pixar. This is my last episode for a while. I won't be on it for another 5 months, but we're going to include like a section to it where I like try to give my ratings of the movies that each week and then give maybe like a little ranking based off of whatever it is that Justin can try to include. But if you want to join the podcast and help out Justin, be greatly appreciated. So guests are open. Just email us or not email. Just DM us through Instagram or TikTok or hit us up.
Yep. It's at Newbies To Movies Podcast. Feel free. I think Matt's going to post on the page here in the next couple of days, just kind of looking for guests. So if you're interested in any category as well, feel free to reach out. Let me know. We have it scheduled out for a while, but if you're really passionate about something, please let me know. We can definitely try to work it in and go from there.
Awesome. Thanks for listening.